Bosses, what's the craziest thing you've seen an employee do? Part 2. Story 23. We had a guy who would vanish in the middle of the day for roughly 3 to 4 hours, then return at the end of the day. Come to find out, he would go home during that time, play with his dog, smoke weed, and then come back to work. When we had to sit him down and explain he couldn't just leave, he totally flipped out and told us all to go F ourselves and go effing fire him. He got a warning and still works there, and HR still does nothing when he disappears. Story 24. Went out for smoke breaks like 5 times a day, eventually got to a point where he couldn't wait to get outside and would light up in the elevator to get a head start. 2 days after that mishap, he took his lunch break and came back very drunk. I think he worked a grand total of 7 days, hired to fired. Story 25. We noticed that she was falling asleep a lot at work, so that got all of our attention. She usually took 10-minute naps throughout the day, which isn't a big deal because you can have breaks, but our alarms went up. One of the employees heard a crackling beer can in the bathroom one day. Saw her come out of the bathroom and check the trash cans. 10 minutes later, beer confirmed. Also some weird blood spots on paper towels too. We searched her belongings and found several other beer cans and a funnel. Noticed that she didn't have any alcohol on her breath. My face when we realized she was butt-chugging the Miller High Life to get lit at work. No! Why? Look, I'm sorry. I'm laughing at the butt-chugging comment. Alcoholism is no joke, and this woman clearly needs some help. But that is wild, and I wasn't ready to read that. Story 26. I had an employee call a French woman a frog and then start ribbiting. That was kind of awkward. Story 27. Used to work with this girl that would watch adult entertainment as she was operating her machine. She'd prop her phone up on the control board and just watch it as if it was a sitcom or some crap. Coworkers went to her supervisor to let him know, and he had to have a sit-down with her. She was oblivious to the fact that watching shows on your phone while you work was prohibited, let alone Adult Hub. Story 28. Saw a dude fall asleep on a stand-up forklift. How tired must you be to do that? Story 29. Company hired a contractor to take on some database development. The guy was hired as Senior Database Engineer Contract to Hire. He was 53, so he's had experience. He proceeded to do so bad on a project that we had to ask forgiveness from a client, refund all their support hours, and have our junior developer, who was later promoted due to good work, redo the contractor's 2-month project. It took the junior dev 1 week, 35 hours. Story 30. Took a temp job leading the Santa's Village at Bass Pro while waiting on my contract to start at my career job. The people you hire are usually interesting. One girl on her first shift was on her phone as I walked back to the department. I wasn't in uniform yet, but told her, "You aren't supposed to be on your phone on shift." She screams, "Who the F are you?" I walked away, clocked in, wrote her up, and came back to her with a write-up. She turned out to be one of the better employees. Are you really going to enforce rules like that at a Bass Pro Shop Santa's Village? Frankly, if I'm there with my non-existent kids and I don't see any of the teenage employees on their phones, I'm going to assume it's a terrifying work environment and will call someone to help them. Story 31. I had an employee call and tell me her mother died. Well, I got an anonymous phone call from someone telling me she was lying, so I called the number I had on file to send my regards, and I got an address to send flowers. In the meantime, the office had collected an envelope of money to help with the costs of the funeral and missing work. When I called, the mother answered and was shocked to find out her daughter used her death as an excuse to go to Vegas for the weekend. When she returned, I held a big meeting with everyone in the office and presented her with the envelope of money and flowers. She took it and faked crying. I called her into my office to reveal that I knew and fired her and took the envelope back. She said she don't give a blank and left. Story 32. The owner's nephew was brought on to be an assistant manager, and the same night he effed some random floozy on the office desk on top of the staff paychecks, and when we closed up for the night, he stumbled into the bar next door where I was having a nightcap with industry friends. He didn't see me, but he threw his credit card down and said, "I'm a club owner. I drink for free here." He kept shouting that until he was asked to leave. He didn't last long. Story 33. Not too crazy, but pretty stupid. I had a girl that worked for me at a mortgage company pull the credit report of her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend. No idea how she got her social security number. and then went on the girl's Facebook page posting messages about all of her debt and past due accounts and the crappy kinds of car that she drives, etc. Got an angry call from the girl who ended up being a pain in my butt for a while. Edit. Forgot an interesting part. We fired the girl, and about a week later, an agent from the Department of Treasury comes in asking questions about the girl. Turns out she was being investigated for a series of fraudulent things, including operating as a loan officer without a license and taking out a bunch of federal student loans in her grandfather's name. He wanted information because, in investigating, learned that she had been fired from the company for some sort of malfeasance, and he wanted the details. She went to jail for a while, eventually. It sounds like it would make for a moderately interesting movie. It's like a much less well-thought-out version of that Leonardo DiCaprio movie where he was some kind of scam artist, getting away with all kinds of crap. Titanic, that's it. Story 34. The owner made me cut hours while keeping his son on full-time. As a silent protest, everyone took an extra-long smoke break that day. When I went outside to corral the troops, I overheard the craziest thing. An employee defending me against the charges I was a weak butt kisser who failed to stand up for them. He's got to feed his family just like everybody else. And she continued to defend me even after the others labeling her as a quisling, which was really crazy given the state of education in America. I'm shocked they even knew what that meant. Story 35. I caught the CEO having intercourse with the clinical director in a post-op bed in a surgical unit. I was the COO. Story 36. 3 out of 5 members of my team were caught sleeping multiple times, twice in front of clients. The other 2 team members actually took pictures. They knew they were in the wrong, but kept it up anyway. I finally got the pictures, showed them to my boss, and he called a meeting. In said meeting, the 3 of them argued that their privacy was invaded, and who took the pictures? And this is unacceptable. I simply said, you're sleeping on the job and we're giving you a warning. They do good work and I didn't want them to lose their jobs over a really stupid mistake. To this day, those 3 guys feel like they were outed and snitched on. Story 37. Super Target Deli. Had an employee eat food from the deli in the walk-in freezer, which was the only place without cameras. He was shivering and holding an entire meatloaf mouthful. I couldn't stop laughing. That's gotta be some good meatloaf. I gotta get some of that. Story 38. Not a boss, but used to work for an MSP. They had an office with a big tile missing in the ceiling. Apparently, they had this accountant who was working late one night. The next day, everyone comes into the office and they find said ceiling hole. Turns out the accountant heard God calling her from the ceiling. She proceeded to climb up her desk into the ceiling and managed to get into one of the offices next door. Story 39. Had an employee that was always falling asleep while riding around from job to job. It was time for him to get his CDL for the company and had to travel about 2 hours away for testing. Halfway into his trip, we checked where he was, and the truck had been running for an hour about 45 minutes from the test site at a truck stop. Had to call a gas station attendant to wake him up. Still hadn't contacted me. About 30 minutes later, we got a call from a guy that he had run off the road. The company name, his number is on the side of the truck. We checked the GPS, and it showed him driving 70 miles per hour down to 20 miles per hour right around the time the incident happened. He ended up passing his test and making it back to the shop. I asked him what the F he is on. H? He said. No, I was smoking M all night. Honesty isn't always the best policy. Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 40. Had an employee go for a drug test, mandatory for old drivers with a CDL. He used his 10-year-old son's urine and warmed it up on the defroster in his car on the way to the test center. The center called and told us they were surprised he was alive. His urine was 130 degrees. Needless to say, he wasn't employed much longer. If it was 130 degrees Fahrenheit when they tested it, just imagine, he has to smuggle it in, fill out some paperwork, get into the room, give it to them, and then they had to test it. In all that time, the temperature dropped to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning he was probably grabbing that thing from his car like a hot potato. Story 41. This guy always tried to hide at work to avoid working. One day I was looking for him and I stepped into the bathroom. I noticed a shoe print on the back of the toilet and I looked up and one of the ceiling tiles is pushed a little to the side. I climb up there and this mother effer is hiding in the ceiling. Story 42. I was a valet captain at an expensive restaurant with the parking lot 2 blocks away, and one of the valets I was supervising took a wrong turn in a customer's 2016 Audi RS7 and ended up getting pulled over and arrested for going 110 in a 70 on the interstate. Story 43. I'm a supervisor for a pretty strict, no-nonsense German company. A lot of our employees have a constant feeling of despair, and let it be known, some situations that have happened are below. 1. Poop smeared all over the bathroom stalls every day for weeks. 2. Carvings in the bathroom wall of tyranny, despair, certain manager is not good, competing company pays much better, etc. 3. Admittedly, the company treats employees badly. An employee's car was totaled when a neglected light pole fell on it. The company refuses to pay for it, and it has been in the parking lot for months. After about 2 months, every single manager in the building had their expensive cars keyed. Story 44. I wasn't the manager yet, but was still working with her. I came into work one morning, and she was sleeping in the chair. I tried waking her up, but it didn't work. Called a friend at our sister hotel, and she came and woke her up. She was very disoriented. She drank while at work, and it was obvious she mixed stuff in a 2-liter. She then quit, and then a little bit later they rehired her. I didn't think it was such a good idea, but they still did it, and she ended up being a no-call, no-show. Story 45 was middle management at my old job. I had a team below me, but plenty of awful people above me. Had one of my people specifically request only closing shifts because it was easier on her family for childcare purposes. After a month of this, she blanked at my blanking awful boss about no shift diversity. He talked with me about it, ignored the fact that she had requested it, and demanded I give her day shifts. So I gave her 3 day shifts. She missed all of them, blamed me for not giving her the night shifts she wanted. My F-wad boss yelled at me for giving her day shifts too, despite me telling him this would happen when he forced me to do it initially. Firing the girl for missing so many shifts, she recruited 5 guys, the father of her various children, to come yell at me for ruining her source of income. I just realized I read it as 5 Guys, the restaurant, and not that she literally recruited 5 guys. I'm gonna get this restaurant to come yell at you. Story 46. Referred to a Chinese customer's baby as a cute little When my coworker, who also happens to have Asian heritage, pointed out that it was incredibly racist, the employee replied, "Oh, it's fine, my boyfriend is black." The weird part is that he was Filipino, not black, as if it excuses racism anyways. She was shocked when we didn't renew her contract. Story 47. She angrily defecated on my desk after I wrote her up for hiding in the bathroom for 2 hours to play Candy Crush. Story 48. One of my employees had a bonfire at his house. I was there with some of the other employees till pretty late. Got a call early the next morning from the employee that was at the party who was supposed to open, said he was sick and wasn't going to come in. "Dude, I just saw you a few hours ago, remember? You had better be at work." I ended up firing him a few months later. Story 49. Be a productive worker and ask for more projects once they finish what they worked on. They're mad, I tell ya. Story 50. I had an employee who had intercourse regularly in the bathroom. He said, "Is there a problem? That keeps me sane if I'm stressed." Story 51. I worked in a call center, which should be all that needs to be said. I once caught an agent cutting out lines of white powder and then snorting them. I caught countless agents breaking apart pot to roll up in joints, blunts, packs a bowl. I had a girl walk into one of my training sessions, grab the wastebasket, and proceed to pull all of her weave out. I had a girl disappear from my training class, and we later found her passed out in a puddle of her own crap, pee, and vomit in the handicap stall in the bathroom. I had a lady who was too damn lazy to get up and walk to the restroom, so she decided to just crap her pants at her desk, then proceed to shake the turd out of her pant leg. I have so many stories from that place, I have seriously considered writing a screenplay. Call centers are not my speed, as I've made clear with the fact that I only worked in one for 2 days. Look, you want the Jesus lady story? Here you go. I was calling getting voter info. I would ask for the name listed in our system as the head of the household. This lady answered, and I was required to ask, "Is blank there?" She replied, and I quote, "No, but do you know who is? Jesus." I know this sounds like I'm making it up, but I was already thinking of quitting, so I just sighed and replied, "Well, is he planning on voting?" I don't recall exactly what she said after that, but she preached to me for a few minutes, hung up, and I left. Story 52. Not an employee slash boss, but I used to work at a B&Q in the UK and the forklift driver went on the tannoys as the store was closing. This is a customer announcement. Could you all pick up your things and F off of the store? We all need to go to the pub. Thank you. As he turned around, the store manager was behind him. You can imagine what happened. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.